And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Starting off with hazardous weather. Quite a few colored in areas here on this graphic. We've got coastal flood warnings out here for the Yukon Delta coast on up into the eastern Norton Sound area here, Norton Bay as well. And coastal flood advisories out here for the St. Lawrence Island area, Seward Peninsula, and coastal flood warning out for late Sunday and Monday for the central Arctic coast with advisories back to the west here. And eastern Beaufort Sea coast still a blizzard warning out until 10 p.m. this evening. And then all of the yellow in here, that's winter storm watches from the Noatak Valley across Ambler and the Kobuk Valley into the Koyukuk Valley. Winter storm watches out also for Fairbanks and down into the eastern and central Alaska range. And moving down to the south, we've got a coastal flood watch out for the Kuskokwim Delta, Nunivak Island area for Sunday night time frame. And from there, going to the southeast coast. Winter storm warning for heavy snow here over the northern panhandle, anywhere from 5 to 15 inches total expected to fall. That's out for tonight into at least a portion of the morning tomorrow. And advisory, snow advisory out for the Hoona area and then up towards Skagway for lighter amounts in those two locations. And satellite imagery showing cold air coming southward, pouring out of the interior here into the Gulf of Alaska. That's spinning a low up and pushing that moisture in to the northern panhandle. About half an inch of rain or more falling in Juneau during the daytime today. And cold air coming down out of Canada, down Lynn Canal there and into the northern areas. That colliding with the moisture and producing the heavy snow in areas here. Again, about 5 to 15 inches having fallen there north of Juneau, mainly along the Klondike Highway up toward Haynesboro and in towards Skagway. And then lighter rainfall amounts down to the south, but pretty wet conditions. Had gusty north winds, North Gulf Coast today, Madanuska Valley, as well as south central Alaska. And mostly clear here for Bristol Bay with lighter winds, Kodiak Island as well, into the interior, and then clouds here along the Arctic coast there, and a front. Actually doesn't show up too great here, but there's a weak system here bringing some areas of light precipitation into the Yukon Delta, Seward Peninsula. Actually, that came through earlier today, brought a little bit of light rain and snow in toward the Nome area there. Light snow currently falling, Kotzebue and at Buckland. And then another front out here to the west, not all that strong, but coming eastward here over the top of high pressure farther to the south and putting that in motion again. You see mainly pushing northeastward here, but the whole pattern shifting eastward, that breaking down the high over the northern Bering Sea, and it'll kind of retreat down to the south over the weekend here. And this picture here, this is the Palmer Airport. Peak wind gusts 56 miles per hour, and you can see here east of the runways, dust, quite an area of blowing dust here with those strong winds again, peaking at about 56 miles an hour this afternoon out of the northeast. The next one here heading eastward, the North Gulf Coast. This is another FAA webcam shot here. This is at Flag Point there in the Copper River Delta down toward the coast. You can see quite a lot of dust blowing, picking up by those strong north winds coming down the delta there, maybe as high as 70 miles an hour in gusts. Then going north of this area, actually this is, Flag Point here, going north up toward the $1 Million Bridge, you can really see plumes of dust getting blown up by those strong winds here. Quite an area right in this area. Of course, this sun reflection on the lens there with the sun right up in that area. But real windy conditions, and with the lack of snowfall and the dry weather, we're picking up a lot of dust there. On the chart today, here's a gradient associated with those strong winds here. Up on the north, or the upslope areas of the Alaska Range, still some light snow falling, but that's starting to taper off here. And then low pressure, again, due to the cold air coming out over the warmer waters of the Gulf of Alaska, kind of creating this low center here, another center tracking up toward the Queen Charlotte Islands. All of these pumping moisture into the panhandle today, and then the colder air coming out of Canada there down Lynn Canal on those north and northeast winds, creating quite an area of pretty good snowfall there. Again, north of Juneau, north of Hoona, and areas on up into Canada. Here's this weakening front that didn't show too well in the satellite imagery, and very weak system here, just a little bit of light rain or snow in along the Yukon Delta coast, possibly Nunivak Island. Areas of light snow farther to the north there across the Seward Peninsula up to the northwest coast, gradually shifting eastward here. And still looking at winds gusting 35 to 50 miles an hour today along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, with new snow creating blowing snow, reducing visibilities down to a quarter mile at times today, starting to show some improvement there a little bit this afternoon. Otherwise, high pressure, light winds down over the Brooks Range here into the north central interior. It's a little bit of light rain with moisture coming southward, banking up along the north sides of the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. And then this front out here to the west, you can see pushes eastward here, increasing westerly flow across the Bering Sea, kind of breaking through the ridge, and it's kind of retreating off to the south here. This system still produces a chance of light snow tonight from the Yukon Delta, or from the Yukon River, right up along the northwest coast, maybe as far east as Point Lay. Conditions improve on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Pretty nice conditions, way of light winds and mostly clear skies. So cold temperatures back below zero again, the Yukon Flats down toward Beaver, and pretty chilly conditions right in the Copper River Basin. Diminishing winds here for the Matanuska Valley and the North Gulf Coast, but staying breezy throughout the night tonight in those areas. And a little breezy, but not too bad, Kodiak Island. Clear skies there. Showers continue here for the Alaska Peninsula on Alaska Island. And snow continues here for the northern panhandle, with rain over the central and southern areas as this low slowly trying to push eastward. Actually, that's another wave that developed and is moving in. And then for tomorrow, most of that mess shifts off into British Columbia. And so that's going to allow the precipitation to scatter out by late tomorrow afternoon to just some snow shower activity over the panhandle, with a weak low hanging off the coast here. And dry conditions, sunshine, and less wind here across the North Gulf Coast into south central Alaska. Partly to mostly sunny skies into the central interior, extending back with dry weather all the way up to the Arctic coast. This front pushing inland kind of links up with the moisture left behind from the weak trough today. So you got snow, light snow chances spreading in toward the central interior, mid and lower Yukon River Valley, and a mixture of precipitation over the Yukon Delta area. But snow and maybe some gusty winds there along the northwest coast, especially Point Hope and Cape Lisburne. Much better conditions for the eastern Arctic coast. Out to the west, big storm out here coming out of the Sea of Okhotsk and the frontal system there. See the next day that low center tracks off to the northeast across the Russian area there, heading up toward the coast. But a very strong front coming into the Bering Strait, so good southwest flow ahead of that, quite a long fetch here. Westerly behind the front, southwest ahead of it. Look for snow and blowing snow to increase here over the western part of the state, possibly some of that getting down toward the Kuskokwim Mountains, but definitely up here along the northwest coast, Kotzebue Sound, Seward Peninsula getting hit pretty good with those winds, and very strong winds up around Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, and increasing winds for the western central Arctic coast, not so much on the east side. Generally pretty good here, maybe some isolated light areas of snow. But for southeast, south central Alaska, the southeast interior to the North Gulf Coast, partly mostly sunny, or just mostly sunny here, and not too bad for the Alaska Peninsula, with increasing southwest winds here for the eastern Aleutians, rain and wind for the central Aleutians, but the heaviest precipitation and winds going to be up here over the northern Bering Sea, all shifting into the western interior and northwest part of the state. By contrast, maybe a clear day there for the southeast coast. Could still see gusty north winds, maybe up to 35, 40 miles an hour, Lynn Canal out of the north, but it'll be very dry conditions as all that weather shifts off into Canada. And for the lows tonight, generally below zero up here in the interior, anywhere from 5 to 15 below, or 0 to 15 below again. 5 to 10 for the lows of the Copper River Basin, and 15 to 25 south central Alaska. Much milder out here over the southwest coast, staying in the mid to upper 30s there into the Pribilof Islands, 40s for the Aleutians. and lower 30s in the northern panhandle to lower 40s down to the south. Highs for tomorrow in the 20 to 25 degree range here for the central interior areas to the east. As you head west, coming up closer to 30, and then in the lower 40s for the Yukon Delta, near 40 again, about that today. Upper 30s Nome, about 40 tomorrow, lower 40s for St. Lawrence Island, and teens and 20s for the Arctic coast. Highs in the mid-30s over the northern southeast coast, to mid-40s down to the south, mid-40s here for the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island. Followed by lows, again, very contrasted from east to west here, staying above freezing in the mid to upper 30s out here toward the west coast, anywhere from 10 to 20 or 5 to 15 in the central interior, and again, anywhere from down to 5 below to 10 above on the east side there. Otherwise, the southeast coast, 25 to 30 for the lows in the north, and in the 30s to the south. Moving on to highs for Sunday afternoon, 35 to 40 northern panhandle, and warmer to the south. Mid-40s here in the western part of the state, warming up now even on the east side, but still staying below freezing in the 20s to lower 30s there. Teens for the eastern Brooks Range and 20s for the eastern Arctic coast, but almost 40 there on the western coastal areas.